So here's some good news. Now, my personal 2020 endorsement is my presidential choice is general strike. And my VP pick is rent strike. That's my official endorsement. It's been I think they already got my 2024 endorsement, as a matter of fact, and they got my endorsement in the midterms. I'm a general strike, rent strike stan. I think we just need to go on strike. I have said the strike does not apply to me as a content creator and comedian who is not able to tour, which we got a story about that coming up later. So I will be a communication vehicle to the best of my ability. My producer, Lucy, who's a black cat running around here somewhere, she is also on board. And that's what I plan to do. And it's happening. So check this out. AP exclusive, strike for Black Lives to highlight racism. A national coalition of labor unions, along with racial and social justice organizations, will stage a mass walkout from work this month as part of an ongoing reckoning on systemic racism and police brutality in the United States. It's a strike for Black Lives. It's happening, I believe, on July 20th is the big day. So July 20th, there's going to be a massive strike in the country. Yeah, here you go, July 20th. And one of the things that I've been saying for a while now is I think the best thing that can happen for society is all the momentum around people who are striking, rent strike, people who are walking off the job, people who, all these wildcat strikes at Amazon, and then, all these Black Lives Matter protests. I think the best thing that can happen is everyone starts cross-pollinating and realizes all the connections between systemic racism and economic injustice, the types of connections that Martin Luther King was making, the types of connections that Fred Hampton was making, the types of connections Malcolm X made and have been made throughout history so many times. We need that to happen again and for it to gel into a mass movement of people saying we've had enough and we're not going to be the cogs in your machine anymore. We're not going to keep the system working anymore. The pandemic has taught us who the essential workers are. So much so that guess what we frickin' call them? Essential workers.
What do you know?
We're not even being subtle. So
Exactly.
It's like, these are the people who keep the economy going, the people who keep your grocery stores open so you can get food, the people who keep the pharmacies open so you can get your medicine, the people who keep the logistical chain running. And it's up to all of us to say, we're not doing it anymore. We're going on strike until this oligarchy crumbles.
Yeah, look, I think these strikes are great because the International Trade Union Confederation just ranked the United States in last place among the world's 7 largest advanced economies when it comes to workers' rights. So we really need to see this. And basically, they found that the US is the only nation among the group of 7 that has systemic violations of rights in the workplace. They basically engage in efforts to crush the collective voice of workers, and they put fundamental rights under threat. And then you have people like Elon Musk, basically like retaliating against people who say that they want to strike or who have actually already organized strikes. So it's great to see them taking a stand. And, we saw so many people come out on the streets to protest racism and police brutality, partially because of the pandemic. A lot of people don't have anything better to do. We've given them a cause and they're showing up because they can.
Well, and I think a lot of people hit their breaking point too.
Oh, of course.
I think a lot of it is like, this is the straw that has broken the camel's back.
But unlike before when it was easy to kind of ignore things, now people really can't ignore it.
Mm-hmm. Well, not just that, but the work culture is set up so that people can't. I mean, it's set up in a way. I mean, like you're saying, last in workers' rights. That's by design because they want it to be, well, gee, in other countries, they strike and they get what they want. For a number of reasons. One, they're treated like human beings and they get better wages where you only have to work one job. 2, their healthcare is not tied to their job. Here, when you're working 2 and 3 jobs just to survive, you're 1 paycheck away from losing your apartment or not being able to get groceries. You can't really fathom, I'm going to go on strike to get treated better. And that's by design. You can't really fathom, I'm going to protest the injustices in the world. And that's by design.
Well, and now people are actually losing their lives. So we had all these workers' rights issues at factories, especially in the meat industry, Tyson Foods. But now with COVID, people are literally losing their lives because they're being forced to go into work with the same crappy working conditions that were already in place before the pandemic. But now, again, they can't ignore that this is happening. And so, I went to Target very early on in the pandemic to like try to stock up on things, like panic buy a little bit. And I felt so bad being there. My clerk was panicking. She was like, I need to run to the bathroom and wash my hands. I could see that she's having a full panic attack, and yet she couldn't afford not to go to work. She had to be there. And this was before they named anybody essential workers, before they allowed people to even wear gloves and PPE masks there. In fact, Trader Joe's, they were told early on that they were not allowed to wear any masks or anything. So these workers were incredibly terrified of a disease that nobody really knew anything about. And yet none of them were in any kind of a financial position, because a lot of them do have healthcare through their work as well, to just say, I'm not coming to work today. And just watching their fear, it really made me have so much sympathy for them, because they are essential workers and we all need them. And it was really, really sad to see her have a full panic attack right in front of me.
It's heartbreaking. And then when you see these strikes, which of course the strikes are motivating and gives you a little hope. But then when you see what they're asking for, it is so criminal. And there's no other word for it. It is criminal that they even need to ask for this during a pandemic. Give us the cleaning supplies that we need. Give us hand sanitizer. Give us the equipment that we need to do our job. When someone has COVID, let us frickin' know. Let's follow proper safety procedures. People get sent home. People get quarantined. I mean, these are just, they should not have to ask for any of that. Give people hazard pay, for crying out loud. And we should be going way further than this. Nobody in any store, in any situation, should have a shift longer than 4 hours right now. It shouldn't happen. It should not happen. It should be efficient and as safe as possible. Nobody should be working more than 4 hours at a time.
You got to pay them for a full day, because people need to work more.
No. Everyone should be getting time and a half. Yeah. And that's an important addition. Absolutely. Everyone should be getting time and a half minimum.
Taking advantage of this moment with all the protests that we've seen, as I just said, for anti-racism and against police brutality, it is kind of like the Arab Spring. It's like a perfect time for everybody to come up and air all their grievances at once, because people are paying attention, and you are seeing some legislation and things change. Colorado just passed a pretty comprehensive police reform bill, and they're the only state in the nation now to ban qualified immunity, which is incredible. The rest of the bill, it's okay. It's basically advocating for things that were already illegal, and yet cops were still doing them anyway. But the big one is the qualified immunity. My point is, these things are working, demonstrating and having everybody come out. And maybe now people are getting sick, and obviously don't come out and protest if you're sick, but just having that be a talking point right now where people can all relate to that across the whole world, I think is really good.
So, and that's the other thing too. I know that, there have been policies in Colorado and in Minneapolis, of course, and a lot of the policies out there. Do we still have a long way to go? Of course we do, because I think it's far too late for reform. I think we need to go as far as we need to rethink how law enforcement works in our lives. We need to rethink. I think the job of a police officer, as we know it, should not even exist. There's no reason for that job to exist. I'm not saying there's no law and order. I'm saying there's no reason why somebody who pulls someone over for a broken taillight needs to have a gun. There's no reason why the person who responds to it.
To needing gun control in America, because everybody has a gun. And so if everyone's going to have a gun, then of course cops are going to be afraid that when they do pull someone over, that person is going to have a gun. Like, that's a big part of the problem as well.
That's a part of the conversation too.
The National Guard coming out with all their weapons, you also understand why people advocate for the Second Amendment. So it's
circular. It's very complicated. And, but it's like, if we're not going to really restructure this now, when are we going to do it?
Oh, absolutely.
If not now, when? I actually wrote a thing where it's like, if I was, mayor or something, this is what I would do in a community. And basically, like, I broke it up into different things where it's like, someone who responds to violence, like someone who responds to a live shooter or something like that, is somebody who never responds to anything but those cases, and is someone who is extensively trained for years, specifically in dealing with those types of situations. Mm-hmm. They're not the person who just does a regular beat, and if there's a noise complaint at a party, they show up there.
Yeah, and
That's
we
a
have
different thing.
yeah, and diverting funds away from, there's no reason why LAUSD, the school district here for elementary schools and high schools, should have grenade launchers. It's absolutely absurd. What are you going to use that for? Going to war on school campuses? So that program finally ended, but that was still in place just a few years ago. So that's the other part of the conversation.
Yeah.
But
Why does a town of 7,000 need a tank?
right.
What are they
But
going to do with that tank?
it's like with the, everyone has a gun conversation. It's also back to our militarization. They are absolutely tied. When we're out there policing the world, how is police reform going to happen here domestically?
Yeah. So, but like getting it back to the protests, all of the concessions we've seen so far, as the result of about, it's been a little over a month now of protesting, we have seen more than decades.
That's why I'm saying people should keep coming out. They should keep airing their grievances, because now they have the attention of the whole country and the whole world.
And it's showing you what works. It's showing you where.
It's showing people. It's a collective. People are joining together. It's no longer just a little tiny strike. It's like everybody is coming out. I think this time is very interesting, and the time was right. And as bad as the pandemic has been, this is one thing that I'll look at as a silver lining of just bringing people together to fight for those injustices.
Which is an important mindset. I mean, that's so, because it's, and I don't know how you've been throughout this whole thing, but for me, it's like I've really had to work hard to train myself to just take it a day or two at a time, one foot in front of it. Because if you really try to think what the future holds, you'll go nuts, like you'll go nuts, because there's so many unknowns still. And if you don't hold on to some reasons for hope and optimism, and they are out there, are out there, in your neighbors, and in the people out there, people protesting, and the civil unrest that has, I think, just reached a boiling point. We are amidst a pandemic. We have faced martial law. The president has instigated violence against his own people, called for the shooting of American citizens. This is a breaking point. We've reached a breaking point, and you got to maintain some hope that we're going to come out the other side a better place.
Yeah, we already are. Like we said, there's little mini things happening, little reforms step by step, but it is happening. And that is really the silver lining, because we'd seen police killings on camera for years. Every single week there's something. And it did not get people galvanized in the way that George Floyd did. Again, it was the perfect time. People were sitting at home like, oh my God, I can't believe, like everyone saw it. There was no reason not to see it, because everyone's sitting around like trying to figure out what they're going to do next with their lives.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your